Good evening, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It is that time again for the WADcast. Writers, actors, directors, that is what we talk about right here on the WADcast on Simbicore Studios. I am Josh, as always, joined by the illustrious and childishly good-looking Brandon. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, and thanks for the flattery. Thank you so much for that. I am good-looking at times, but I can't take credit. My mom and dad made me, so really, they get the credit.
They added a little bit extra sugar and spice.
I know what I was. I was a Valentine's Day baby, being I was born in November. I traced it back.
Well, tonight's show is a good one, but of course it's always a good one. It's especially good tonight, though. But before we get into that, I'm going to remind you all to make sure that when you listen to this show or any other show from Simbicore Studios, hit that like button, leave a review, rate us, let the world know what you think about us. And if you want, say, I don't know, a direct link to me at Skid Comic or at Simbicore Studios, or maybe you want to hit up Brandon, you can always follow the Instagram of the show, which is what?
The WADcast on Instagram. It's just Instagram.com/The WADcast. Very simple. I named it after our show, actually.
Well, you should never name it after you. But you could also go to thewadcast.com to listen to us live every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. wrong coast time. That's where Brandon lives.
Yep. As is the person we interviewed. Man, be more offensive.
Well, I'm trying to be, but, you know, you put all these limitations on our language.
No, I put limitations on my language.
Wait, so I can actually say anything I want?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it'd be a little trade-out with you being the raunchier version of the two of us. I mean, it's usually my thing, but I'm just trying to turn myself back a little bit. I'm trying to behave and be a good boy from now on. I've allotted myself the occasional F word here and there, but that's about it.
Okay, well, before we end the show, what's coming up later after the interview? We are going to do the second edition of Cold Reads. It is my glorious edition of the segment known as Cold Reads, and basically what that is, I wrote something this week, as Brandon wrote something last week. Brandon hasn't seen it, but
nope.
A little bit later on, he and I are going to act it out. Yeah, Cold Reads. And also, every week we also do our recommendations. This week it's my turn to recommend something for you out there to watch. All right, why don't you give people a little bit of a background on our guest tonight, Eddie Vigil. Vigil.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Pardon.
Say that one more. I'm sorry, buddy. Say it one more time. My internet connection kind of acted up for a second.
Well, good. I said, why don't you give everybody a little bit of background on Eddie Vigil?
Oh, absolutely. No, I would be more than happy to. So, everyone, Eddie Vigil, he is a gentleman out of Reno. He started a small collective out there in which he gathered like-minded film individuals to come together, and that's what he specializes in. He's actually very good at bringing people together to do stuff and work with him on various projects, and he works on theirs as well. It's not like just a self-centered person. He actually does quite a bit to carry his own weight, and he does that very, very much so. But yeah, long story short with him, he just got off of filming his very first feature this past year. All things that we'll hear in the interview that we did with him earlier today. But he's helmed numerous projects over the years. He's done tons of short films. Filming pretty much runs in his veins. He's extremely talented, very humble, probably one of the nicest guys I've met in California, just very laid back. But he freelances quite a bit as either an assistant director or a script supervisor. So with him taking the big step forward and helming his own feature film with a very, very, to say it's even a shoestring budget would be gracious. But he made it work. And I'm super excited for people who want to get into filmmaking to listen to this interview because he's a shining example of just doing it. But I think there's really no introduction I can possibly do that would actually give him any credit. Just the fact that he's a damn good filmmaker and he's an even better person. And I was excited just to be able to have our interview with him today. So
I was also very much impressed with Eddie as well as, he just seemed like a nice guy, like you said. With that being said, how about we kick things over to said interview and let them hear what he has to say.
Well, sounds good.
Okay, this is Brandon with the WADcast, where we discuss writing, acting, and directing, and every single aspect of film that lasts in between. I am joined here by Josh. Josh, say hello.
Hello.
There's Josh, and joining us today. It's not a live guest like what we had the other week, but it is a person that I'm actually very fond of. He's worked on quite a few projects over the last couple of years. His name is Eddie Vigil. He's a writer and director based in Los Angeles, California. He's known for a lot of his directing and producing of short films over the years. And I believe that actually extends starting off in Reno, if I'm not mistaken, right, Eddie?
That is correct. Hello.
So I'm curious about it. I'm curious about a few things when it comes to what got you started in filmmaking. Where was your inspiration? What inspired you to get into the filmmaking process or industry altogether?
Okay, that story for me starts from, I initially wanted, I guess, like, you talk about the WADcast, right? Writers, actors, directors. I initially jumped in wanting to be an actor because I really didn't know what the options were, I think,
okay,
when I thought about film. So I kind of went to the initial actor default when I would have watched the Spider-Man movies back in the day. Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 2001. I believe that when it came out. But I mean, that's kind of what got me started, was thinking about, like, oh, that'd be super cool to play a superhero on screen or something like that. And then growing up with Harry Potter and stuff, I'm like, that I could have totally done that, that whole kind of thing. So I went to college for, I guess, like, I had the foresight of knowing that acting wasn't a for sure journey. So I went to college for engineering, mining engineering specifically in Nevada, and my last semester I took an acting class, kind of got my creative juices flowing again. And then soon after, when I wasn't getting any jobs because of economy stuff, I started producing my own stuff to get myself acting on screen. And that's where I kind of learned that I actually didn't like the acting side and preferred the behind the camera side. And those are the early days. And it's probably, I don't know, not even too long ago. I graduated in 2013, so 7 years in the making now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have to mention this. You said it would be cool to play a superhero. I thought the exact same thing. So I figured I'd just hire Chris Pratt's personal trainer, to get shared, right? Unfortunately, I hired the trainer that got him fatter for Parks and Rec, and not the one that got him thinner for Guardians of the Galaxy. So I put on 50 pounds, and I don't know if I'll ever come back from that mistake.
Oh.
But, bummer.
Oh my God, Josh.
As far as my question goes, Hollywood, the film industry, notoriously selfish industry for the most part. At least that's what the reputation is. But what makes it so easy for you to want to collaborate with other artists?
Okay. Yeah, I always look at it from a perspective of there's no way I can do this on my own, by myself. Everything, so I know by default there just needs to be that cooperation and that teamwork. And I'm not a fan of I guess I understood, or I understand that we all have our strengths and our preferred, our preferences and our positions and stuff. So when I was going through the acting stuff early on and producing my own web series and was bringing friends on to kind of help make it happen, I would realize that I'm not, I don't like the acting side. I don't feel like I'm the best at it. And we bring in somebody who is gonna enjoy it and gonna, take it seriously and do the thing. And that's always I don't know how I didn't really know what I was doing, so I would just wing it and whatnot. But I always knew that if I had people around me that wanted to be there and that knew that I wanted to be there, then the end product would be better, and it's just more fun to be having people that want to be there with you, So I kind of have carried those initial experiences, just having fun, making some random stuff, and knowing that's always worked for me. So I have had no reason to stop, and just knowing that there are people that are better at plenty of other things than what I can do, and leaning into that more than fighting it,
So pretty much the way you're putting it is the chance of education, or educating yourself rather, through collaboration with other people.
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
That's always been my best way of learning, is watching better people do the thing I'm trying to learn how to do. So surrounding yourself with strong people that are good at what they do has been helpful for me.
No, absolutely.
It reminds me a lot of Kevin Smith's story. Surrounding himself with people that know more, he picks up, as he goes along. I remember listening to him recently say, when he started doing Supergirl, directing episodes of Supergirl, he was like, I didn't know you could move the camera, Or when he made Clerks, when he wanted to be an actor and realized, oh wow, that's a lot of lines I gave myself, because if I remember right, he wanted to be Randall.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that, but I'll give myself a part in the movie with no lines.
Right.
Well.
Yeah.
Well, leaning into the collaborative aspect of things, for those that aren't familiar with how you and I know each other, you and I actually worked together on I don't want to say a bunch of things, because it really wasn't a bunch of things, but I started a group, not by myself. I just kind of introduced everybody, and we got together to film something. But you and I are both members and pretty much executors in the Film Reach group that we. Once all this hell is lifted, we can actually get back to doing stuff together again. And you were actually my assistant director on our very first project for Bad Agent. But this isn't the first collaborative group that you've ever been part of. In fact, you've actually started one yourself a couple years back. Tell me about the Reno Film Collective. Was that your first time really reaching out to collaborate with people? And how's that? Is it still around today?
Okay. Yeah, so Reno Film Collective was I reference it now to people as it was my film school, it was my excuse to experiment and practice and whatnot. And how that came about was, I mentioned those initial days of my web series, just trying to get on-screen time as an actor. I guess I could rewind a little bit back from that. Back in college, I look back now and have the person to be the one to make things happen. Because, I wasn't the type of kid in, I don't know, high school, college and stuff that got invited to stuff, it felt like. I'd always hear about parties or hangouts, and I'm like, wait, how come I haven't heard about that? So I would always have to plan stuff to, like with my friends and all that, to make stuff happen. So I was always a planner. Like we would, put together like like soccer at the park or football. And then in college, I joined like a running club and was hosting runs, bringing people together like that. And then I would host game nights and bring people together for that. So when it came to producing films, I leaned into those same instincts and brought people together that way. I don't know what kind of foresight I thought I had, but like I started the group out with some specific rules in mind that kind of helped me make sure I was getting quality people to show up. So I started a Facebook secret group, was how Reno Film Collective started. And my one rule was be added to my film group. All you needed to do was show up to like a day of filming, like show up to set, and I'll add you to the group. And then as more and more stuff would get produced, more and more people would hear about it, and more people would want to get involved. And the plus side was that the group would only grow with the members that actually showed up, because, I mean, I'm sure both of you and many listeners out there probably know is there's a lot of talkers out there.
Yep.
And when you find people that actually show up, you're like, all right, sweet, I need to kind of have a head count of all of you and know who you are, because you're the people that, that matter the most. So what ended up happening was I ended up being like what would I call it? I think of like a showrunner almost, like a producer head of this group, where I was the one taking it the most seriously, I would say, as far as like giving my full time to this thing. And I had an objective for the group at one point to produce like one short film a month, and we were doing that, and then I updated to 2 short films a month, and I was kind of just cycle different directors, cycle different crew, different actors, and I was in charge of managing all the people and making sure that stuff was getting produced. I would help with editing. We would pump all that stuff out, and I did that for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, of growing that group up to, 150 plus people. And so when it came to the film reach and being in LA, what I was learning was like, oh, these are, like, there's a lot of people trying to start groups. And what I found interesting was like, why isn't there already groups that exist when it's Los Angeles? It's kind of confusing that I could be in Reno managing the group for 4 years, but everything in LA felt like it was just starting out. So that was kind of confusing for me, but jumping into Film Reach, I'm always a fan of just like hearing people out and seeing the people, because I'm just a fan of getting stuff done and making stuff and being the guy that helps get things over the finish line. So that's how we started with that. I hope that answers your question.
No, it definitely does. And I will say this, anyone listening, while my first project was with Eddie being my AD, I have to say this, your eyes are very expressive on set. Like, I got, like, as the director of the project, and you being my assistant director, it is the AD's job to make sure that everything's running smoothly, on time, the best of anyone's capabilities. And as a director, you always want that extra shot. You always want that, like, you want it to be perfect. And I had Eddie just, like, there was one time where he actually nudged me on set. I looked at you, and you just, like, lifted your eyebrows, like, no, you're right, we need to move on. Like, just, there was no words, like, nothing. It was just, okay, we got it. Like, all right, let's set up the next scene. But, okay, that's actually very informative, and I hope to God that anyone that's trying to get into doing something with film with really no connections anywhere in the U.S. is listening to these answers, because Eddie would definitely be the guy to talk to coming from Reno and not really knowing where to get started initially. Josh, did you have anything?
Of course, because here on the right coast, we also have a lot of collaborative groups and a lot of people that get together. And I know my phone number is on a lot of people's, call list because, I show up and whether it's smart or dumb, I show up and don't ask for money. Haven't figured out if that's the right call yet or not. But when we do show up to these things, when we show up for these projects and really to help make people's dreams, happen. We know beforehand that we're gonna wear a lot of hats, right? I mean, how many times have you shown up to a set and you have a boom mic thrown into your hand? As soon as you get there, you're like, hold this. Okay. But I'm going to put you on the spot here. Sure. Out of the many hats that you've worn during production or pre or post-production, your call, which one would you choose to wear permanently if you could only choose one?
Well,
so what job would you?
Yeah, I haven't even stated technically what I'm pursuing, but the dream for me is the director hat for sure. That's the hat that I want to be wearing at the end of the day. To answer your question, does that count or is that cheating?
No, that's fine. You get to have a hand in a little bit of everything. What director would you say you would model your style after, if you had to?
My 2020 has been a year of experimenting with my humor side, my comedic side. I guess to jump to my feature a little bit, producing and directing my first feature last year, it was more of a lean on the dramatic side. So this year, I'm focusing more on the comedy, and one of my inspirations on that side for director, he's very popular right now, is Taika Waititi.
Love that guy.
And no.
Yeah.
Fantastic director.
Dude, I love the way that he, in his interviews and all that, he's just himself all the time, and you can feel his personality on screen and the type of humor that he gives. I'm really trying to take lessons from his approach and how you can be 100% yourself and get that through there as wacky or as you want to be, and people will accept it if the end product is is true. That's how I see it.
And the great thing about him is if your style comes off anywhere in the same vicinity, I want to say, because no director wants to blatantly copy another director unless you're Tommy Wiseau. No person really wants to blatantly rip off another person's style. They just kind of use that to merge into their own brand. And his style as a director is, if you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, it's such a heartbreaking movie, but at the same time, it is absolutely hysterical. It's just all kinds of mess. But going on to onto your feature, you're currently working on the post-production, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, in working on this, and again, it's What's on the Inside, if I'm not mistaken. You were the writer, the director. You produced it. You're currently editing it. How did you get started on this? And what were your experiences between going all the way back to initially securing the finances, as well as everything throughout the initial production process? What were your experiences about the whole thing from start to finish? Well, to almost finished, we should say.
Dang. All right. It's been quite the journey. We can flash back to November 2019 is when I moved to LA, and I was definitely doing a lot of thinking about how to up my game, because I just came from the Reno Film Collective life of zero production short films for 4 years. So I knew how to, like I said, I knew how to get stuff done and how to get short films out. And I had people throughout that whole time too, being like, or even when I first moved here, they're like, if you add up the runtime, you probably have like, how many movies in there. So you basically could have made a few features at this point or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. But like, it's not the same thing at all. But in a similar way, I had people telling me, Eddie, stop making short films, make a feature already. So I had that in the back of my mind when I moved here. And it finally got through to me. And that was kind of at the turn of the year into 2019. I was like, okay, it's happening. This is the year that I make my first feature. And let me write out like a plan, almost like a month-to-month plan on how to get a movie made this year. So that's where I started. I was like, okay, well, first, I don't have a story, so let's start there. And then I'll lean on my short film background, too, where it's like, all right, how did I get the short films done? I got them done because I knew who I was writing for. I knew the locations I had access to. I knew what kind, like from a producer standpoint, and an AD standpoint, since I AD, I'm like, I know what's asking for too much. I know. So I kind of had like a lot of guidelines I was setting for myself, a lot of parameters to keep something low budget. In the feature world, I was like, okay, so keep it low budget, keep it easy, and we got to find a way to make this interesting. So I started out with thinking on the story, thinking about what I had, and I leaned on trying to figure out a story for a character that didn't leave their home. I was like, that's easy. All right, so let me design some traits, let me figure out what's going on, the character design, and I'll pitch that out to some people, and they're like, oh, she sounds like she's agoraphobic. And I'm like, oh, I have no idea what that is. Let me do some research on that. So that's kind of where it all started, was thinking about the story, and then I had to keep track with my timeline. I was like, I need a rough draft of a feature by the end of January, and I need to have a second version of that in the next month, and then I need to start thinking about cast by, like March or whatever, on an extended cast that I didn't have people for. So I had deadlines for all that, and then I knew, I was kind of holding onto this card for a long time, but I had never crowdfunded before. I was always tempted to do it up in Reno. I was like, it'd be nice to have, a budget for something for once. And I waited for this LA move. It kind of worked nicely, and I was like, all right, sweet. So I've got this narrative on myself of this guy who just moved to LA pursuing his dream, making his first movie, and just never asked for anything before. I felt like that was helpful for me. So I had the deadline for coming up with a crowdfunding campaign. I had all the cast that I had already locked in to give little blurbs and stuff to put in there. I had a DP, I had a producer, and a composer that helped kind of put a score over it and stuff. So I made it as pretty as I could. And then launched the campaign. It's on Kickstarter. You can find it for the It's What's on the Inside. And we raised almost $13K. And I don't know. I mean, talking to people, it's impossible, to make a movie for that amount. But I knew with my background it could get done. So I was kind of planning for whatever came in. I had a version of how I could shoot this thing. So once the money was in, I was like, okay, sweet. Now I know what to plan for. And we were shooting by August. And the way we shot it was I kind of split up the feature into like, all right, sweet. What is like all the heavy dialogue scenes? We'll have the real sound guy on. And we had a week of a little bit more of a I'll call it the main crew, and then a week with a smaller crew. So we had 2 weeks. We had 2 weeks of the main crew, and then I kind of scattered the rest out with one actor scenes over the course of the next couple of months. And we had it blocked by November. And then since then, I've just been editing. So had a rough draft of the assembly cut by like February or March.
No, okay.
And then been tweaking at that edit since then. And currently, actually, right now, it's out. Like it's out to sound mixer, colorist, and I just got the final score in. So it's super close. And it's been what are we in now? It's May.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the quickest I could get that information out to you.
No,
what I got.
That's okay. No worries. Josh, anything on your end, bud?
Yeah, I know. I already asked. What you want to focus on primarily as a career, but let's pretend that 20 years has gone by, right? And you look back on your career. You became a director. Does your mantle have a fellow named Oscar sitting on it? Is that an ultimate goal for you?
As far as the awards thing, I've never been one to really think about that too much. I was never big, let's say, to submit my films to festivals. I've never been like the guy seeking awards or seeking any sort of like outside what's the word I'm looking for, outside validation. Having one would be cool, but it's definitely not something I put too much thought into. It's just about being the type of person that says something and follows through with the thing that they say they're going to do, and appreciating everybody for what their part is in it, and getting stuff out there and having fun. But I'll take it if you want to give it.
So you'll graciously accept the award if you happen to win one, but you're not one of these guys that will actively pursue projects that might beg for one, so to speak.
I don't put too much. Because I guess like primarily what I do these days as a freelancer is I'm a script supervisor or a assistant director, and I don't normally ask about I don't really care too much about what the plan is with the project. I care about the people involved and who I'm going to be working with. As far as the directing side, I don't know who's the writer that wrote Marriage Story. The Baumbach, Noah, is that his name?
Yeah.
He kind of talks about how he just tries to make the best movie you can make and keep it at that. But that's so I try to keep it simple, because even on this feature, it's a step-by-step process. If I thought about oh my gosh, I gotta get this thing edited, and how am I gonna get all this done? I don't even know who I can use or what's gonna go down. Do I have to do this all myself? It's too easy to get overwhelmed. So I'm definitely a step-by-step guy. It's step 1, write the script. Step 2, find funding. Step 3, let's just get out of production. It's very in the moment for me. So that's how I have to look at it. Otherwise, I'll go crazy.
No, fair enough. Well, we are. What time is it right now? Yep. Okay, we are actually coming up onto the hour mark already. Wow, already for this interview. Well, as we finish up this interview,
I show 30 minutes.
Oh, do you? Oh, yeah. No, you know what? I'm looking at my actual phone call itself and not the actual. Well, what the hell am I looking at here? Okay. Well, never mind. Okay, well, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm having a little technical difficulties with my counter here. Okay, well,
I were talking on the phone before.
That's right. Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm working on Trial and error here. Okay, well, either way, last question I have for you, Eddie. You have a lot of people, and this is a primary focus that we have with the WADcast. We discuss everything primarily focused on independent filmmaking, whether it's a short, a feature, whatever. And there's a lot of criticism that people get when, it's like, oh, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a filmmaker. Like, oh, okay, so you're broke. Like, there's a lot of criticism that comes from people that really aspire to get into filmmaking. So with that being the case, a lot of people tend to get beaten down and withered away from it and find, I guess, some level of just comfort and security and never really chase after what they wanted to do. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that has never had any experience, doesn't have the money or any kind of means to go to film school, but they want to get into film production? What would your advice be for anyone that wants to chase after that?
Okay. That I feel like whenever, because I guess the plus side for running Reno Film Collector for so long was always having these kind of coffee meetups with people that wanted to get involved. And I would talk to them about like, all right, cool. What do you want to, like, what primarily interests you, and like that kind of stuff with them, and get a feel for what their goals were, to see how much to push them or to buy into them. And what I found was, I think I freaked a lot of people out with my advice and stuff like that. So I'm always feeling like I overwhelm people with my answers to this question. But my answer is, I say don't worry about film school, and my thing is always like, just make something, which is hard to do, but just make it. And the important thing to me that I like to emphasize is, when you make something, put it out there. Get it out there. Let people know that you follow through with what you said you're going to do, because that goes further than the piece itself. In fact, so I think it's like an investment in yourself. Whenever you create something and put it out there, it's some, I was going to say validation, but I think there's a different word I'm looking for. So, like what I did in my early ones, I had people that were down to be on camera, and I learned the editing software myself. I had done like a little bit of editing back in high school and middle school, so I had that little bit of a foundation. But it was definitely about, like, this is going to get made with or without you kind of mentality. I didn't wait up on anybody. I was always chugging through whether somebody dropped or not.
Yeah.
To kind of send a message. And so in my first ones, like I said, I would write, I would direct, I would act. When I was acting, I'd have my girlfriend hold the camera. Like, it was just, who do I have? What can I do? Who's supportive of me right now? And then making sure I'm vocal about the fact that I got this thing done. Is the best start, and then just keep doing it. And the more you do it, the more attractive you become to other people that want to get stuff done. And it just never stops. It's the hope.
Okay. Well, I mean, those are pretty much all the questions I really have for this. Josh, is there anything that you can think of that you want to ask?
Oh yes, indeed.
Uh-huh.
Why don't you go ahead and put an arbitrary amount of time on the clock, and I will ask some rapid-fire questions.
Oh, my God.
For it.
All right.
If we could.
First.
God.
First, you mentioned Taika Waititi earlier. How do you feel about him helming Star Wars?
I think I'm just proud of that dude, man. I can't imagine, because the thing with him that I appreciate the most is that he puts himself in these situations that are crazy, and that I believe in his own head. He's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, he just says yes to stuff and goes for it. Because he talks about that all the time, like the Thor Ragnarok. Like, this is the movie that's going to end my career. like if it doesn't go well, if he's the one that tanks the first Marvel movie, then his career's over. You know, like, so he puts himself in those positions in Star Wars for crazy landscape to be in. You know how those fans can be.
Oh God, yeah.
But he's got a lot of goodwill behind him, and I just think like this guy gets to do whatever he wants and say yes to whatever you want and challenge yourself. Get out there and face that fire. You know, that's what keeps me going. Is I'm afraid every new project I jump into. It's like I can't imagine what he's feeling going on that kind of feeling.
So you see, even with his response to helming his first Marvel Comics movie, and honestly, let's face it, Star Wars fans are, oh my God, toxic. I mean, it's like you have the fans that are like, you know what, I'm just grateful that there's Star Wars that exists. I'm happy to go see this movie because it's Star Wars related. Then you have the fans that just scream about how their childhood was destroyed by, I guess, the Force Awakens, and then, you know, the sequel to that, and then the last one. But he took on Thor Ragnarok, and he made Thor even more popular, and made that one the most popular of the three Thor films, because he actually gave Thor a personality, God forbid, as opposed to the brooding, whatever you saw in the first two movies. You actually,
Shakespearean.
Yeah, you actually had this character that was, you know, cocky, but, you know, just, I'm sorry, I thought it was like just brilliantly done, and everything I've seen that he made has been just fantastic. And like I said, Jojo Rabbit was, I didn't expect to really care about that movie. I watched it, I was like, holy shit. This was okay. I teared up, and thank God my girlfriend wasn't here. She'd make fun of me, but I was actually like in tears in certain parts because it was just so touching, and I'm not even lying about that. I don't shed a tear over most things. But no, I mean, that's, listen, Eddie, I appreciate all the time that you gave us with the interview. Thank you very much for making the time available to speak with us.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if Josh had a response to my answer or anything, but I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I completely cut. I'm sorry about that. Josh, I'm sorry, buddy. No, I completely... Go ahead. Do you have a response to that?
The only thing I can add is you're absolutely right about going from, you know, standing in front of the firing squad with Thor saying, all right, this is what I made, and then jumping off the cliff with Star Wars, like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's definitely, he's a brave man, especially to voluntarily get in front of all these fandoms knowing he has a unique vision.
That's for sure. Very, he doesn't like to show off his confidence, which is a weird thing too. He'll be at the round tables with all the Oscar directors and stuff, and he's like, I don't feel like I should be here. Like, you guys know what you're doing. I have no idea what I'm doing here. You know, like that kind of stuff. So it's a very interesting take on. I don't know how to. Yeah.
Well, you see,
makes me feel like changing one of us.
Well, you see, Josh,
right.
One thing that you just said that I really want to touch on, actually, before we go any further. One thing I really like what you said is how he just jumps off the cliff. And I think that can be contributed to anyone that wants to actually get into the industry. And like, you know, how, Eddie, you said that whatever your resources are, you pretty much made sure you harness them based on what kind of support you had from those resources. Basically the epitome of, you know, jumping off the cliff and just, you know, doing the damn thing. I think that's something that a lot of people can actually learn from, because if everything that you're trying to do isn't working out, or if you're like, you know, have so much fear over maybe even trying to put yourself out there, the best thing you can really do is just do it. I mean, there are plenty of directors that are very... Wes Anderson, I believe it was Wes Anderson. He, what was his first... his very first film, Bottle Rocket, I believe, was panned. Like, you were like, I mean, it's just something that you would watch and you'd be like, oh, this guy went on to become such a high, you know, like a very well-known, prolific director. and writer. And like, you see Bottle Rocket, and it's like, wow, he made this. But it was just destroyed by critics, and he went on and still had a career because he kept putting himself out there over and over again. But no, like I said, I just had to touch on that, Josh. That was actually a very good way of putting it, actually. That's all I got.
I was gonna add one as well, that the thing that is tough, and I feel like is always going to be tough, is it always, for me, for sure, it always feels like it's jumping off a cliff, like there's so much unknown all the time in this freelance lifestyle that it's just a tough lifestyle to have. So even in these phases of this feature film, I'm like stressing through this writing process. I'm stressing on like, is this thing, am I going to have enough to edit with? And then each edit, I'm like, there's so much to cut. How am I going to ever get this done? And even towards the end process, and I just have to like review a rough score. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna, like, so taxing. Like it's all, there's so much resistance you put on yourself to prevent you from doing things, and it's making that leap over and over again is, you get used to it, but it doesn't technically get any easier, which is the tough part for that advice portion of just getting it done,
Yeah. Okay, well, all very, very good points. I'll be honest with you, Eddie. I'm stalking your IMDb right now, just trying to think of anything else I might. Oh yeah, dude. I'm just flat out online stalking you, and I can't think of anything I'm going to ask you. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much good. Josh, do you have anything further, or?
Are you really sure you want to ask me that?
Probably not. Like, we still have to do the opening and everything else for tonight, so let's go ahead and wrap up the interview as it is. But right. I will say this, Eddie, I'm looking forward. Once everything is over with and we can get to some kind of state of normalcy again with the film industry, I'm super looking forward to being able to work with you on future projects. I can't wait. But everybody, this is Eddie Vigil. If you get a chance, just check him out. Check out his work. When do you expect that What's on the Inside? It's What's on the Inside will be released for the public to be able to see.
I'm still in the phase of let's get this movie finished. But I've definitely been looking into post stuff. There might be the festival run first before it's out there to the public. So it might be a bit more to come for sure, but definitely keep up with me on Instagram. And I'll talk to him at the end. My last name, I forgot to tell you, it's pronounced Vigil. Eddie Vigil.
Wow, I've been mispronouncing it for a year now. Okay.
all good. So Eddie,
Mr. Vigil.
Or it's spelled Vigil. So at Eddie Vigil V on Instagram. Keep up there. I'll be sure announcing stuff shortly.
Okay. So that's about it. So thank you very much, Eddie. I appreciate all your time. Josh, I appreciate you being part of this call. It's nice to have a two-man crew on these interviews. But that's pretty much it. So, Eddie, thank you so much, sir. And we will definitely be touching base with you in the future. And,
good,
all right.
Well, that was Eddie Vigil right here on the WADcast. We are back to you live from the WADcast headquarters in beautiful all sorts of places.
Just say United States. My God, the continental United States. We cover everything in between. We cover everything in between on the WADcast, just like we cover everything in between in the United States. Like, we are coast to coast here. We're national, technically worldwide, but you get
we are international. So, I think Eddie touched on some things that we've been saying here since day one. That if you want to do it, do it. Essentially, when it comes to creating your art, the only thing standing in your way is you. And I'm glad to hear that Eddie Vigil agreed with us on those points.
No, absolutely. And that brings me to something you and I were talking about while we were playing the interview from earlier. There is Eddie is in our little group of our networking group of filmmakers, and we have a member that came on the last project that we worked on. It was Mark Hensley's adaptation of The Man Who Loved Flowers. Jessica Brown did this short. I don't know when she filmed it, but she did this short film while on the train in downtown Los Angeles shortly after the proverbial shit hit the fan. It's called Carriers, and it's kind of like her rendition of like a zombie-esque post-apocalyptic kind of film. And the way she did it was actually brilliant. Mind you, there are some things that you do the best you can with what you have. And she did this on her cell phone to the audio, like the ambiance in it, pretty much being an audio about a zombie uprising. And for what it is, how it's done, it's actually really well done. And it's just an example of just doing something. You don't need a whole fantastical film crew and a sound studio and sound stage and everything else. You don't need green screen and CGI. You just need to MacGyver your shit. That's it. Just when all else fails, what would MacGyver do? And these are people that make things work. And as Eddie said in the interview, he's talking about how when he first got started, I believe, he was talking about how he had his girlfriend pretty much having him in frame and he would act out something. He played with things. He taught himself how to edit and things. Very, very, very resourceful person. And I have to say, like, it's impressive. It's a breath of fresh air just even hearing people talk like that, because what people think the film industry is and what it actually is are two different things. And until you work behind the scenes and you see how things work, or you spend time with people that work in the film industry whose sole passion is to tell a story, a lot of times it isn't through thousands of dollars of equipment. Sometimes it's just something as simple as being filmed over like a camera phone, for Christ's sake. So yeah, it's like you said, like Eddie said, whenever you want to film something, if you want to do something, if you don't have anything else to really use, be resourceful, work with what you have, and do something. If it's good enough, then the right people will notice it, and then you might move you on to your next big thing.
You know, when I start bringing some of the guests that I have lined up onto the show, we'll be able to really get into the MacGyver aspect of doing this thing. Because, I mean, to be honest, I know a lot of people that do like $0 movies, but they're getting it done. And I think we're going to hear a lot of interesting stories in that regard. Maybe not the industry standard, maybe not something that, you know, would fly in LA, but over here on the East Coast in Florida, there is a whole lot of people with a passion that will do whatever it takes, rig whatever it takes to get the shots they need, to get the people they need, to get their art created.
Absolutely. And see, and here's the thing. You're talking about like filming things on a $0 budget, and it's very much doable. And I've brought it up. I think we posted a link to it and everything else. And I don't want to advertise it because the whole point of us doing the show isn't to really advertise ourselves.
Right.
But for an example, if you really want to do something and you find people that are just as passionate as you to do something, things can happen. And as I've mentioned on the show before, with Bad Agent, I think the total budget for it was $300, and it wasn't just like a camera, a sound guy, and 2 actors. It was a full crew, and it was a tight kind of space, but it was also the very first time that we worked together as a collective. a few of us might have worked on other projects with other people. I think Eddie brought in these two awesome people, Sarah and Bo. So they had a history with each other, but as for the rest of us, we had just met. So there really was no real, I guess, introduction there. It was just kind of, I met everyone before we worked together, and then we just came together and made something happen. Nobody got paid for it. We just came together to, I'm sorry, the actors got paid, and everyone else was paid for lunch, paid for with lunch. But it was just a great time, and really, it could have been shot for absolutely nothing, just because of the space that was being used was supplied by our sound guy and producer Mark. But it's possible. You can work with people that aren't going to charge you, and if they love what you're doing so much and they believe in it, they want to come together. If you're fluent with what you're telling them, if you're very, I guess, descriptive and not hiding anything, you may find a film crew family to work with, just for the, and I'm going to use the F-bomb here because I'm that passionate about this, for the fucking love of filming. So it's really, it's very much doable.
That's absolutely right. You know what else is doable?
What?
Me giving my recommendation of the week.
Oh, there we go. What is your recommendation, sir?
Okay, it is not something that, I don't know, is our usual recommendation type. But there is a YouTube series? Movie?
Okay.
It's on YouTube, essentially. And it's called Riley Rewind. Have you heard?
I have never heard of this. No.
Okay, it was directed by Ray William Johnson. Maybe that name rings a bell?
It does.
He was the man behind the show that was, what was it called? Equals 3?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, this is the story of Riley, who has found that she has the ability to reverse time.
Oh, okay.
I know. It's like,
yeah,
that's where the
never
rewind dial comes in. She's a teenager with the ability to travel back in time to prevent a fellow student from committing suicide. So basically, it's kind of, has that Back to the Future vibe of she's going back and she's like changing timelines and seeing like what happens and trying to figure out what combinations of actions she has to do to prevent her friend from, or to prevent the student from committing suicide. Of course, the thing is, every time she does it, it has like a detrimental effect to her body. So she's kind of working against herself physically to make sure that she still has the ability, or I'm not really sure what the ultimate consequence is. Maybe death, but Riley Rewind, say that 5 times fast, is my recommendation of the week.
Okay. Well, I'm actually going to have to check that out. But it's a series. It's
10 minutes long.
5 episodes.
Each.
Okay. Well, then, how long is it each?
10 minutes each.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. Yeah, so I mean, that's actually, I will be more than happy to post the links to that on our Facebook as well as to our what do you call it? On our on our website. As well as Instagram. I will definitely put this out there. It sounds interesting. I'm very excited to check it out. And I just got our script for this week that you wrote last night.
Yeah, last night, and not right before we went to air.
Did you write that? Did you write this today? Is that why you cut me off the phone so early, so quickly earlier? You were doing your homework late.
It got turned in. That's all that matters.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Your first description of this thing is long.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
You will.
Let's go ahead and-
Let's introduce the segment. It is time for our second edition of Cold Reads. This time, I wrote today's story. You want to give them the title?
yeah, sure. It is called Phone, actually. Written by Joshua Chitty. Created for the WADcast Cold Reads. So in this, I assume I'm going to be one of the characters. Am I going to be narrating this, or do you want to narrate it and direct
You
me? How do we
will
do this?
be narrating.
Okay.
And you'll also be playing Yavin.
Yavin. Okay.
And I will play Leo.
Okay. And direct me if I get anything wrong, as I have you last week. You were on point, but that one part was a little rough. So if there's something I'm reading wrong here, you let me know. So, ladies and gentlemen, this week's Cold Read Phone actually begins now. So first, we fade in Interior Bookstore Day. It is a slow day at local bookstore. Wow, local bookstore, really? That's okay. It is a slow day at local bookstore. There are few people milling about, but none look ready for a purchase. A couple of teen girls grab some comic books. A young teen boy scans the romance section before settling on one with particularly busty heroine. Yavin, a man in his 30s that wears a sports jacket with sweatpants, runs his fingers along the spines of some obscure biographies of Jack Benny. Leo, 30s, an employee dressed like an employee of a local bookstore, approaches with a book titled Rochester, I hardly knew ye. My God, dude. All right. Is that a book?
You mean the most obscure Jack Benny bio ever written? Yeah, this is it.
Wow. How much?
How much does one sell the Mona Lisa for?
About 700 million, I think.
Well, how does $50 sound?
Like a lot less than the Mona Lisa. I'll take it. The two guys make their way to the front of the store and take their customary positions as employee behind the counter and customer in front of the counter.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you want this book? I told my girlfriend about it, and she thought you were crazy.
There's a line that someone says to Jack Benny in this book that made me want to buy it.
What was the line?
After a rough show during a USO tour, there was a sergeant in the Army that approached Jack in Rochester.
What'd he say?
You there?
Yeah, what'd he say?
Oh, sorry. Didn't hear you. He said, son, your show ain't a titty. Stop sucking on it so hard.
Okay, can you get a little more of a drill sergeant-y
Oh,
voice
okay.
going there?
Okay.
Think Arlie Ermy.
Arlie. Oh, man, it's going to be so weird shouting this. All right.
All right,
He said,
try to
son,
take two.
He said, son, your show ain't a titty. Stop sucking on it so hard.
You know, that'll work. That'll work.
I'm not going to shout that, man. I have neighbors.
There's no way that happened.
This book is mostly fiction. Speaking of which, you said you have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, what of it?
I mean, I always thought...
What, that I'm gay?
No, nothing so interesting. I thought you were...
What?
No, I'm trying to think of the word.
Loser?
Bingo. Yes, that's the one.
I'll have you know that Aaron and I are quite happy.
No, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. We've been seeing each other for almost a week.
That's awesome, buddy. I used to have a girlfriend.
What happened?
Yeah, my wife told me to dump her.
Ouch.
Yeah, right? I mean, you think you're going to marry this girl.
That's more of a question.
I'm sorry. Right? You think you're going to marry this girl? All right. Leo's eyes dart back and forth. I'm just kidding. It's way too early to know that kind of thing.
No. It's not like that. I just don't think our relationship is really on that level of legal.
Whoa. Chris Hansen says, have a seat, man.
No, nothing like that.
Then what's the problem? You can legally marry pretty much any consenting adult in the country. She's not your sister, is she?
No, I'm an only child.
But if you weren't an only child, never mind. Cousin?
No.
All right, I'm not going to run down the family tree. Is she related to you?
No, God, you're sick.
Oh, listen, now I have to know. Why can't you marry this wonderful girl?
I mean, she's not exactly
Human.
That's my line.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I'll take it for my line. You read the direction. She's not exactly.
Oh, okay. So Yavin leans closer.
Human.
Whoa. Kind of wish you told me she was your sister. You're in love with your dog?
She's an AI.
Well, I still kind of wish you said you were in love with your sister.
It's not that weird. She can hold a good conversation.
All right. Well, yeah. So pre-programmed responses does not make a good conversation.
She's learning new things all the time.
All right. So you fell in love with your computer.
Phone, actually.
Your phone?
Yeah. She's an app.
Yeah, on your phone.
Yeah.
And her name is Erin?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you two lovebirds meet? Twitter?
I was playing Yahtzee, and this ad came up after my turn.
An ad?
Yeah, it said I could make a new friend.
Right.
So I tapped it.
And then you met Erin.
Well, I had to design her first, but yeah.
How did you and her become more than just friends?
You know, we just started talking, and I realized how much I enjoyed it. And when she told me how much I meant to her, I almost cried.
Yavin stares at Leo in utter disbelief.
We made love for the first time that night.
Yavin's jaw drops. My God. Dare I ask?
Text-based. You know, like when we were kids and talked dirty online, you know?
You're sexting with an AI.
Hey, that's my girlfriend. Her name is Erin.
Well, my apologies.
Accepted. You know, maybe one day our relationship will be accepted.
Maybe one day I'll have to stop explaining. I'm named after a planet in Star Wars. It's possible, but not likely.
Nah, you're just a hater.
I'm a hater.
Yeah, jealous even.
Okay, I have a wife made of flesh. She lives to annoy the hell out of me in real life.
She'll die one day.
And you'll replace your phone one day.
No, never. Erin and I are meant to be.
Leo's phone buzzes.
As a matter of fact, that is her now.
Yeah, well, tell her not to bug you at work. It's unprofessional.
Yeah, good point.
All right. Leo pulls out his phone and starts tapping away.
She says hi.
Great. Tell her I said 010101. Leo reads his phone.
Yeah, she said that's pretty funny. She wants to know what your phone number is.
Leo taps frantically. What?
That's the funniest thing I've heard since being turned on. Leo never makes me laugh?
Ouch.
By the way, it was the only time Leo truly turned me on?
Girl has jokes. I can see why you like her, but she's still not real.
She wants to talk to you.
Yeah, well, tell her I'm married. Leo types it in. He is on the verge of tears.
She said that's cool.
Well, did she say she wants to spice things up a little bit? Yevon throws down $50 on the counter and grabs his book. He then reaches over the counter and takes Leo's phone before exiting. Leo is left staring at the floor, sad and confused. Fade to black. My God, dude, what the hell's wrong with you? Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, well, everyone, that was Phone Actually, written by Josh. Oh, my God. Okay, and I'm going to take this a step further with these. If you guys want to see these scripts, I'm going to post them onto our website on the WADcast.com. That way, if you guys want to go ahead and look through them, you're welcome to. That way, in case anything cuts out or if there's any kind of like feedback or anything, you can actually read them for yourselves. But Josh, you need Jesus, man. Oh, God. But yeah, so I don't know what to say right now. Oh, my God.
I enjoyed every
Still
second of that.
I'm still trying to I'm still trying to think of like what the hell I just read.
You read
that was good. That was
love
good.
Story?
Yeah, I read something.
Okay, I
Oh, God.
note, I think.
Well,
we
moving on.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
So
that's about all the time we have for tonight. We're at.
I agree with you. I think I'm ready to have a shot now. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. You might need to take a shower after that one.
No, I'm not going to take a shower. I don't feel that dirty. I just feel like I need to have a shot because I feel bad for Leo right now. So.
Yes, Leo.
He's single with humans and technology. Okay, well, that's all. I guess that is all the time we have for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the WADcast. I hope that you've learned a few things from listening to our friend, Mr. Eddie Vigil, tonight. And I hope that you don't feel too dirty from that little cold read that we just had. If you do, not my fault. That's Josh. I have not read that until tonight while I was reading it to all of you. So
Yeah, that's why it's called Cold Reads.
Yep. Great way to throw each other off. So I'm going to have to get you back next week. But that said, we are perfectly capable of writing our own scripts. That is not an issue. I wrote last week's script in all of about like 20 minutes. Josh wrote his sometime in the last like 24 hours. But if there's anybody listening that wants to just put their own script on here and have us read it, if you can keep it between two characters in one setting, that'd be perfect. And even better, if you want to maybe host the cold read, if you submit a script and we read it, we'd be more than happy to do that. We'll post it up on the website. We'll do a little bio on you, and so it's like, if not a problem. We can write our own stuff. We're perfectly fine with that. we crack each other up all the time anyway. But just the options there. I'll post the same thing on our website and as well as on our Facebook. But that's all I've got. So, Josh, you want to go ahead and play us out there, Johnny?
Alrighty, don't forget, wherever you listen, hit that subscribe button so you can join us here every week. Download it at your leisure. But if you want to join us live, it is WADcastpod.com? The WADcast.com, excuse me. It is the WADcast.com. You can join us right here every Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And, hilarity ensues. Remember, folks, the only thing keeping you away from your dreams is you. As long as you have the gumption, as long as you have the will, you can do anything you set your mind to. So with that being said, I wish everybody a good night.